I really appreciate Tom offered the phone interview. So I'm going to call him and just ask him the question instead of the interview on the through the Zoom. We're going to do the interview through the phone, and the message still will be the same. Okay, let me call him, and then we're going to start our program today. And thank you so much for hanging with us. Today. We cannot use the Zoom, but still we will have the same question with you about the election. The question is, can we have a safe, secure election in 2022? I think that's a big question to American people. And the reason I'm like to discuss with you about that is I'm reading a report from Rasmussen.
When the Trump campaign and Trump himself have said that there were enough fraudulent votes and it wouldn't take that many in the swing states to alter the election. And they have the government, the Biden administration, liberals, you name it, have gone after him so aggressively for lying, for making up stuff, for all of this. And yet you have these polls or a huge percentage of people say, yeah, mail-in ballots are inherent. And they have the results the same day. And here in our country, it's like a month-long process, starting in September, October, drop boxes, mail-in ballots, you name it. And then in some states, they allow voting even a couple days after. So we go for a long period of time of not knowing what the outcome is going to be. Now, you asked, could we have fair elections in 2024? Yeah. Yes, we could. Now, the question is, will we? Will the state and yet, not every state has gone with that. And of course, the Democrats have tried to make the argument, even the vice president, 2 years ago, oh, that's racist. They're just doing that to keep blacks from being able to vote. Well, the absurd thing of that is in our society, how many things can you do officially without having your signature, without using your signature?
That's right.
How many credit cards can you obtain? How many bank accounts can you open? How many
that they did in 2020. What can we do if they don't change? Because they have the power. You
Well, what
mentioned
you have to do is, all elections have consequences. So it's up to the people. Don't just rely, you're trying to vote for the president and for national offices, but you can't rely on that when our Constitution is set up that all of the voting will be conducted in the states.
right.
So the ruling bodies of each state determine
Mm-hmm.
isn't going to be sufficient if they don't have the power to do anything in the individual states, which they do not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so break down the report that issued by Rasmussen. It said that 17% of mail-in voters admit that in 2020 they voted in the states where they're no longer a permanent resident. 17%. And 21% of mail-in voters admit that they fill out the ballot. That's scary.
It's scary. It's all illegal. It's all, and we don't have a dedicated effort to eliminate this in our country, in all the states. Make all of the states run fair elections.
Mm-hmm.
And this process is being controlled by, in some cases, very rich people like Zuckerberg,
Right.
Facebook, donating hundreds of over $400 million, I think, to some of the states trying. The legislators don't want to be called racist. They're terrible if they do this and all of that. And the idea that having fair and honest elections is racist is absurd. But we've allowed the progressive left to pin labels on everybody, call everybody names, the woke cancel culture to step in and prevent what should be honest, logical legislation to regulate these processes so they're not illegal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That there are 54% men and 58% women think that the next year election will be affected by cheating. And the age group from 18 to 39, 62% people think it will be affected by cheating. And for people aged from 40 to 64, 56% people think the law. Every states have their like election law they need to follow. They should follow, but obviously they don't follow. So what can we do? Or maybe the question is there any law enforcement like FBI can do anything about it if some states?
No, the FBI, because these elections are not federal. You know that you
Uh-huh.
might be electing federal officials,
Okay.
but the Constitution clearly says that the conduct of elections will be racist and going along with a lot of this.
Mm-hmm. So as people, as regular voters, we need to first go out to vote. Second, give the pressure to the officials, to our
the officials in the state. Yeah, we need the people
mm-hmm.
to put pressure on the state senators, the mm-hmm. state representatives or delegates, whichever name the state uses to designate their local state mm-hmm. electors, and put pressure on them that we want voter. Mm-hmm. And and that's what we're seeing now. It's just interesting that it's all tilted one way, mm-hmm. so that conservatives don't have the advantage, and progressive liberals do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I heard so many people, conservatives, complain about we're not united. We like individual by individual, so we just don't know what to do. Just to vote, and then if they change to the result of the vote, what can we do? This really bothers the
So 10 or 15,000 votes might be enough,
right,
to have one candidate win against another candidate.
Right.
When you're talking 75 million votes being voted for one candidate and 80 million for the other, 10,000 swinging a state is hardly anything. Yeah. It's almost a tie.
Right.
Now, I grew up in Chicago, mm-hmm. and there were accusations of when the voting poll watchers or whoever opened the polls at 6 a.m., mm-hmm. there might already be 10,000 votes cast on that machine. And cast at that time for the Democratic candidate, John F. Kennedy. Uh-huh. So here people are saying, how could they turn those machines on and cast votes before the designated time of 6 a.m. opening and poll watchers mm-hmm. being in place and all of that. Mm-hmm. So you had widespread cheating. Then the accusations were, well, the Nixon campaign cheated. answers to Nixon were saying you should protest, you should file a lawsuit, you
Mm.
should, do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And Nixon's comment was, I've worked in the Senate with John F. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
I respect him.
Mm-hmm.
I trust him. I'm not going to protest.
Mm-hmm.
If people cheated to help him get elected, he didn't do it. I'm not blaming him, and I'm not going to try to overturn the election. Now that was back in 1960, 61. So, but we don't see that now. You see one party and put them in the box, not 50 to 100, and then not go to safe houses to pick them up. But unfortunately, when that was all being talked about in 2020, you could not get a law enforcement official in any of the states to even look into it. So they pretty much got away with completely cheating.
Right, right. Well, people said that if we don't have a fair election, we don't have this country. And to me, I just saw that we're not law. The officials in the state that maybe that's the only way to have a secure election. Yeah, because we only have 11 months. Think about that. Think about it.
Well, yeah, you don't see, for the most part, you don't see much effort in these states,
right,
to ensure that they're going to hold an honest and fair election. They're pretty much going to stick with what they've had,
right,
the status quo in terms of the procedures,
right, right.
And you know,
Found a 28,000 missing voters, like missing ballots. And Trump lost to Biden is about 11,000 votes. So that might be changed the whole story. I don't know. But see the number, 28,000 votes missed.
The problem here is that a good percentage, as your poll points out, Rasmussen poll, a good percentage Capitol building because they're not convinced it was a fair and proper election.
Right.
And the electors from each state are about to be certified in the Senate in a proceeding, which Mike Pence is overseeing. So all of these people come, and then out of that group, a small percentage goes into the Capitol. Now, some have argued that rabble rousers, helped them in, and the police helped them get in, and the whole idea was that So, we're seeing this intimidation, and the idea is, okay, if you don't like the results of the last election, we're going to lock you up, and we're going to give extensive sentences, even to people that that didn't hurt a police officer or didn't do anything violent or damaging, and they're getting several years in prison. The number of January 6th prisoners still locked up, waiting to go to trial 3 years later.
Right.
And that's not. Bad effect of all of this, that people are seeing the government really stifle expression of protest, which is, a constitutional right under the First Amendment.
Right.
To gather together, to speak out loud, to hold a rally, as long as you do it peacefully, that's allowed. But look what they've done with Trump.
Right.
He made an offer for the National Guard to protect the Capitol.
Right.
And Pelosi and the mayor crowd riding the buses, wearing Trump T-shirts and hats, encouraging the crowd, go in the Capitol, let's go.
Right.
And then they're trying to claim that wasn't the case. That they didn't do that.
So, the behavior, Tom, what they did at January 6th, is absolutely Communist Party behavior.
Right.
100%.
And I have said publicly since back then, I'd like to see the evidence. We haven't seen the real evidence that really happened, or to what extent it happened, or that each individual defendant was charged with injuring a police officer, that they actually did it.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So I think that the trial procedures that were followed, to me, were, I don't know, I think maybe not valid, maybe not accurate. But in any event, if you're going to lock somebody up for 10 years in prison, then they need to have done something serious, because in the district, in front of a subway that's coming down the tracks. And even if they get sentenced, it's going to be a year or two. Not 10 years for showing up at the Capitol and protesting.
Right. And so this is really sad to see the whole country fall down.
Yeah.
And then and then the other question is maybe in 5 minutes, and tell us, what is FISA? Someone talk about the FISA and then they extend the FISA.
drop or do electronic surveillance on an American citizen
Right.
without extensive probable cause. Now,
Right.
I ran the FBI's organized crime program,
Mhm.
worldwide program, for more than 5 years.
Sure.
And we use electronic surveillance wiretapping in all of our biggest organized crime cases. And that was using the criminal law with probable cause being authorized by a U.S. federal district court judge for us to do wiretapping on an individual engaged in organized crime or drug trafficking, other very serious. A warrant with a special national security court that was set up in order to surveil electronic surveillance on an individual who is dealing with terrorist or espionage or some other security issue against the United States. So that's what that provision was done. Now, since then, the courts and some other people who have reviewed that have found thousands of cases of the FBI abusing that ability. And risk, get intimidated, and think, oh no, if we don't vote for that procedure to continue, and somebody blows up the Capitol or flies planes into another, high-rise building or kills thousands of people, then it'll be on our head. It'll be our fault that we authorized, the liberal policy to do that. And that's what the debate is. The individual members of Congress don't want to be responsible for lessening the laws available to the government under the guise of national security. Use this. This is very important for the protection of the United States. And if you use this for political purposes, other purposes, it can't be allowed. Now, you had a case, there was a case during the Trump administration where a lawyer in the legal counsel division at FBI headquarters, not an agent, not an analyst, a lawyer, when they were trying to get a FISA warrant to do electronic surveillance on Carter Page, using the excuse that we know he's dealing with a So the FBI sends a message to the CIA that we know this guy is meeting with these people. Is he meeting on your behalf? In other words, is he an informant of the CIA? And what he's doing is pretty much official business of the CIA. So yeah, he's meeting with bad guys, but he's doing it for the benefit of the CIA, gathering intelligence. The CIA responds to that request. They send a message back to FBI headquarters. Yes, he's one of ours. He's working for us. Yeah. Now, Carter Page's sin was, oh, by the way, he's working for the Trump campaign. So that was the issue, was that the FBI, bad people within the FBI, were trying to get a warrant on Carter Page because they hated Trump and they wanted to hurt the Trump campaign. And that's what happened in that case. The individual, the lawyer, was basically disciplined by the FBI and was going to be prosecuted. Suspended. And then he doesn't have his legal license taken away. Then he doesn't have any other disciplinary action. So basically, nothing happens to him. So you have all of these accusations. In this case, you have an absolutely proven accusation that the FISA warrant was fraudulent and the person that committed the fraud is undisciplined. So in my opinion, we should have these provisions that we can use these statutes for the protection, whether it's to protect us from type of thing. So, it was told to me as an official that I had to review hundreds of these when I ran the organized crime program, that if I violated the law or tried to cheat to obtain a wiretap, I'm going to prison. And I was well convinced of it. My career is over. I could be fined, have my property taken away, go to jail, and I would not be entitled to a government defense lawyer because I would be acting beyond the scope of my employment. Sending a message that you can't do this and you better not do it.
Right.
And I think that's the fear. So I think they should pass the rule, but require absolute enforcement of the laws that tell you can't do it. You're committing a crime if you violate the rule.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's useful, but you have to use that very carefully because otherwise you're gonna against actually the Constitution and the freedom, like A1, A2, and everything. It's
these powers in a very cavalier manner,
right.
Disrespectful manner against the government, against the Constitution, against the FBI itself, to bring shame on the Bureau for having this type of activity appear to be or supposedly to protect the United States when it's not, when it's being used for campaign political purposes. Carter Page was not endangering the United States. He just happened to be working for Trump, for the Trump campaign. I don't even know if Trump we have a culture now of just so much tolerance of illegal or immoral or improper activity that we're just not going to enforce that. That's the way it is. That's what our country has become. We don't put people in jail anymore. We don't charge them with serious crimes when they commit it, or we don't get rid of politicians that have abused their office or other government officials. We don't use the impeachment in a good manner. We use it in the phony manner it was used against Trump twice. So all of those.
Right. Problem. Right. Well, thank you so much, Tom, for the interview, the full interview today. And I'm sorry I just keep you with me for over almost 2 hours for the difficulty of the Zoom connection. And
I've done hundreds of Zoom
right
interviews on camera using that process, number of podcasts,
yeah,
number of television interviews, you name it.
yes.
And that's the first time that I've experienced where this could. Nobody saw it.
So next time terrible. You use the same thing, the same type next time. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again so very much. And then yeah, I wish you have a Merry Christmas and then right for a while. Yeah.
Be careful.
Thank you.
And I hope you and your family have a great time.
Thank you so much. Same to you. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, Cheyenne. You take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. That they cannot hear a part of the voice from Tom. I'm so sorry about that. And I'll double check of my end of the computer and everything. And let's see. I will do the Chinese version right after this interview. And thank you so much for staying with us. And thank you for your patience. See you next time. Thank you.